morning, everyone. Dear friends, we come to celebrate Barry's life, to mourn a relative, to honour a departed friend, to dispose reverently of the mortal body, and to show sympathy with the bereaved. If we can grow in compassion and understanding, if we can each try to live a little better and more fully for having known Barry, this will give continuing purpose to his life, some meaning to his death, and will be a continuing memorial to his memory. Miss me, but let me go. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the master plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and are sick at heart, go to the friends we know. Laugh at all the things we used to do. Miss me, but let me go. I'd now like to call David forward for part of the family eulogy, and Tracy, if you'd like to come up together. Thank you.
Thank you for all being here today. It makes me so proud how many friends Dad had. It's a true reflection of a person's character. There'd be a few more of us here, but they are watching from above with him. Dad would say to me that he would lay in bed of a morning, listen to the funeral announcements on the radio, and if his name wasn't on it, he'd get up. Well, sadly, his name eventually came up. A bit of a storyteller, joker, and a good bloke was our dad, your mate. I've written a little poem to try and capture some of his life. Just bear with me. I've written Breathe. Yeah. It's called Baz, the man, the Mac, the legend. Baz was born and bred in Warhope Town, a motor man, hand-stained brown. He fixed up cars with magic hands, no job too tough, no bold demands. The Ampol station bore his name, and rally cars his claim to fame. With grease and grit and engines loud, he lived his life forever proud. He met our mum, sweet Shirley dear, and soon enough we kids appeared. First Tracy came, then I, Dave, two awesome kids he loved and raised. Then Elsa came into his life, a second chance, a loving wife. They sold it all to roam and see the Aussie land wild and free. But Grafton called and there they stayed, a brand new start together made. From Braunston first to Coots they moved, and Dad found folks he truly loved. Cars and bikes and trucks galore, he loved them all and even more. Trucking pulsed within his veins, a Mac man true, he'd never change. At 70, he made his mark, a Mac truck tattoo, bold and stark. With stories tall and jokes well timed, he'd talk with strangers like old friends of mine. He loved the Coots Tavern's friendly charm, a beer in hand, a voice so warm. We took him west, a dream fulfilled, to Alice Springs, where hearts were stilt. The truckers' hall, the sacred rock, he laughed and flirted round the clock. chasing ladies with a cheeky grin. That's our Dad through thick and thin. Though time was short, the love was deep, and now he drives where angels sleep. A Mac up high in heaven's yard, still shifting gears, still working hard. So here's to Baz, our legend true. The road ahead's wide open too. You'll always ride within our hearts in diesel dreams that never part.
Hard act to follow. Suffer from what Mum called short arm syndrome. So I'll pop these on. If I look at you, and you're probably blurry, but I'm still looking at you. When I was young, I remember reading a piece of prose titled A Boy's Essay on a Cow, which started something like, a cow is an oblong animal with 4 legs, one on each corner. Dad must have liked it too, because I came across a copy of it at his house a couple of days ago when I was looking for photos. So perhaps then, instead of calling this a eulogy, I should call it a daughter's essay on her father. But as much as I like to think I'm pretty good with words, I'm not sure any words I share with you today can completely do justice to our dad, Barry. So maybe I'll just try and tell you a story. And like all good stories, I'll start at the beginning. Dad was born in Wauchope on the 7th of August 1939, less than a month before the outbreak of the Second World War. He was the second of 4 children of Eileen and Keith. There was big sister Barbara, whose role in life, like all good big sisters, was to both boss him about and stick up for him in a fight. Then there was his brother Ronald, who sadly died in infancy, and his much-loved baby brother Rod, who's with us today. By all accounts, Dad could be a bit of a handful as a child, but somehow he survived daring adventures with his mates, including one memorable event involving bows and arrows, which resulted in him catching an arrow in his eye. Apparently, Dad and his mate Rocket reasoned that the best way to find a lost arrow in the evening twilight in the garden was for Dad to stand down in the yard where they thought it had landed, while Rocket fired another one in the same direction. As the saying goes, it's all fun and games until someone loses an eye. To clarify, Dad didn't actually lose his eye, but his sight wasn't quite the same again. Dad came from a long line of butchers, and as a result, he was known, as most of the Everingham fellas were, as Butch. However, unlike his father and his grandfather and great-grandfather, Dad had an aversion, apparently, to raw meat, and he didn't follow them into the family business. Instead, his interest in cars and all things mechanical saw him embark on a trade career as a mechanic and later a truck driver. Not big on school, Dad excelled, however, in his chosen career. He was, without doubt, one of the cleverest blokes I knew. He was an exceptional mechanic and could turn his hand to fixing most things, from chainsaws to diesel truck engines. He started his working life as a garage assistant at Porter's Service Centre and went on to work as a mechanic for John Shaw, Joe Hudson Motors and Oxley Motors. His skills as a chainsaw and vehicle mechanic stood him in good stead for his job with the Forestry Commission before a period of time as the proprietor of the Ampol Cedar service station in Wauchope. He followed this with a few jobs doing mechanical and panel beating work before several truck driving jobs. In the mid-80s, Dad secured a job as the maintenance officer at the Salvation Army's Bethany Nursing Home in Port Macquarie. This is where his true MacGyver skills came to the fore. He could turn his hand to fixing all manner of things, from mowers to ceiling fans to light switches and ovens. After a decade in this role, he returned to truck driving. He loved trucks. He drove all manner of them, from tip trucks to water tankers to log trucks, semi-trailers doing long-haul interstate work. His mechanical skills were very transferable, and he worked both as a mechanic and a driver for several of the companies that employed him. He developed a reputation not only as a good driver, but a good mechanic who took good care of the trucks he drove. and employers often sought him out to work for them because they knew they could trust him to look after their trucks. Dad was still driving trucks well into his 70s. He drove Internationals, Kenworths, Volvos, amongst others, but it's true to say he was a Mack man through and through. So much so, he had the iconic Mack Bulldog mascot tattooed on his arm at the ripe old age of 70. As well as trucks, Dad was into cars and motorbikes. He loved them. Big cars, little cars, sports cars, four-wheel drives, vintage cars, hot rods. The garage at home was always full of an array of cars in various states of repair or disrepair and restoration. As a family, we made lots of great memories, travelling to vintage car rallies in the 1928 A-model Ford Tudor that Dad had. I'm not sure, however, if Dad's favourite memory would have been a trip to Newcastle from Wauchope in pouring rain, where he had to operate the manual windscreen wiper all the way there and all the way back. Not long after that, he fitted a small motor to the wiper assembly, freeing up both hands for important things like driving. He had a real affinity for British sports cars, so it wasn't uncommon to see a various array of makes and models in the garage. There was also a pile of car magazines beside the loo to peruse, inevitably featuring MGs, Morrises, Minis and the like. And as the years went on, Dad would often mutter things along the lines of, "Oh, if I still had that MG-TF that I had when I was a young fella, it'd be worth a fortune now." Or, "Oh, I should have hung on to that car, it'd be worth a lot of money now." As well as sports cars, most of which were restoration projects, there was a steady procession of cars out on the front driveway, from the green Holden Monaro we nicknamed the Frog on roller skates, to a couple of Range Rovers, a Falcon or two, a silver Jaguar that Mum ran over the cat in, but that's another story, cat survived, and a host of others. Cars came and went, but they all had a story associated with them, and he would often reminisce about them years after they'd been sold. In addition to being a damn fine mechanic and an accomplished spray painter and panel beater and an in-demand truck driver, Dad was also, well, our dad. He and Mum worked hard to give us a good life and provided a loving home for us to grow up in. We went on some epic holidays in the caravan, including a big trip up to Cairns and back when we were both in primary school, and down to the Snowy Mountains where we visited some of the hydroelectric power stations. We also made the annual summer pilgrimage from Wauchope to Bonny Hills to our holiday at the beach, invariably surrounded by neighbours and friends from home who also didn't see the point in dragging a caravan all the way to Queensland when we had perfectly good beaches right on our doorstep. Dad's skills definitely lay outdoors and in the garage, which was his happy place, while Mum ran the household with great efficiency. Dad's rare forays into the kitchen produced such culinary delights as tinned spaghetti on toast, but he sure could make that taste pretty good. And he read us bedtime stories, though it wasn't uncommon for him to fall asleep mid-story. He was probably more accomplished as a teller of stories rather than a reader of them, and he had a collection of dad jokes which kept us amused for years. When we grew up and left home to follow our chosen careers, Dad would proudly tell anyone who would listen what we were up to. He welcomed our partners into the family and loved to spend time with them. He was also a proud Poppy Barry to Michaela and Mitchell and delighted in their accomplishments and achievements. While we probably didn't see as much of Dad as we might have, we valued the times when we did catch up. During the last 6 months, we've been especially glad to spend time with Dad, ticking off some trips which have been a long time in the making. Paul and I managed to pull off a Christmas miracle last December and got Dad down to our place in Coogee for a few nights, and then spent a very happy Christmas day with friends out at Windsor. As we pulled into their driveway, Dad muttered something very dad-like, "Oh, I don't know anyone, I shouldn't have come." But needless to say, within 10 minutes of arriving, he'd made friends with everyone and spent the day happily talking trucks with one of the other guests, a young diesel mechanic called Lockie from Brisbane, who loved talking about trucks almost as much as Dad did. That one meeting made an impact on both of them. Dad raved about what a nice young bloke Lockie was. And last night I received a message of condolence from Lockie. We then got Dad down to our little house near Bermagui on the far south coast for the first time in the 26 years that we've had it. After a week of tripping around the Sapphire Coast, introducing Dad to places we love, taste testing every carrot cake in every cafe between Bermagui and Eden, and introducing him to friends down there who he also charmed within minutes of meeting, we returned him back to Coots, so glad we were able to spend that time with him. Dad's most recent holiday adventure was a long-awaited trip to Alice Springs and Uluru with David and Tiana. Originally planned for his 80th birthday, only for COVID to intervene, the trip involved a visit to the National Road Transport Museum and Hall of Fame, where Dad was like the proverbial kid in the candy store. Trucks, trucks, and more trucks. He was also treated to a trip to Uluru, where he experienced the Field of Lights and a sunrise cultural celebration. When asked how his trip was, Dad's answer was magic. For me, the bonus was having dinner with the three of them in Alice Springs the night they arrived, which coincided perfectly with me getting back from a hiking trip on the Larapinta Trail. On their way home via our place in Coogee, the five of us spent a very eastern beaches Saturday morning having brunch at Dad's favourite Maroubra cafe. Who knew he had a thing? Followed by a drive to some of the iconic beaches in the area and a soft serve ice cream the size of his head from the ice cream van at Clavelli. We parted with smiles on our faces and love in our hearts. Many of you will have encountered Dad's dry wit and sense of humour, which made us laugh and cringe in equal measure. He also had an incredible ability to relate to people of all ages and from all walks of life. He could laugh and joke with kids, hold down serious, in-depth conversations with people from all walks of life about all manner of things, or joke and clown about with his mates at work or down at the tavern. He was a bit of a chameleon in that respect, able to adapt to his changing environment. In recent years, Dad's ability to adapt shone through when he and Elsa moved up to the Grafton area. Initially passing through on their first stop on an around Australia trip, circumstances saw them put down roots and embark on the next chapter of their life together. He made new friends and new work contacts, and he found himself a new community to call home. When retirement finally happened, Elsa's declining health saw Dad take on the role of carer, which he did with great aplomb. He stepped out of his comfort zone and into the kitchen and became a more than handy cook. He cared for Elsa until he was no longer able to meet her needs, and she moved into full-time care. Despite his own health challenges, Dad managed to stay in his own home while diligently visiting Elsa and providing loving support for her, right up to her passing last November. We're so proud of the way Dad transitioned into that role, never asking for pity or help along the way. He was old school. He would be the first person to offer help to anyone who needed it, but the last person to ask for help himself. He was a man with a big heart, a good heart. 2 sentences left. And we're proud to call him our dad. There are so many more things that could be said, so many more stories to be told. But for now, this daughter's essay on her father can have no better conclusion than to say, I love you, Dad. We love you, Dad.
Most of us were doing good till you got to the second last sentence too. We're now going to have a photo tribute. Thank you very much.
Is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when he's in a fight? Or just Vegemite? True blue, I'm asking you. Hey, true blue, and you better love. Will you tie it up with wire just to keep the show on the road? Hey, true blue. Hey, true blue. Now be fair dinkum. Is your heart still there? If they sell us out like sponge cake, do you really care? Hey, true blue. True blue. Is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it stand by your mate when she's in a fight? Or just Vegemite? True blue, I'm asking you. True blue, is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when he's in a fight? Or just Vegemite? True blue, true blue. On the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again. Life I love is making music with my friend. I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again. Going places that I've never been. Seeing things that I may never see again. I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again, like a band of gypsies, we go down the highway. We're the best of friends, insisting that the world keep turning our way. And our way is on the road again. Just can't wait to get on
I'm sure there'll be some discussion about those photos and some of those dad jokes a little bit later on today too. The next poem I'm going to read is actually one that Barry quite liked. A life well lived. A life well lived is a precious gift of hope and strength and grace from someone who has made our world a brighter, better place. It's filled with moments sweet and sad, with the smiles and sometimes tears, with friendships formed and good times shared, and laughter through the years. A life well lived is a legacy of joy and pride and pleasure, a living, lasting memory our grateful hearts will treasure. Those of you that have the order of service in your hands, if you would now like to join me as we say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Barry will be leaving us today, and he will be going for cremation. The family would like you to please join them at the Coots Tavern on Armadale Road, Coots Crossing, at the conclusion of our service here today for Barry. And now tenderly and reverently, with love in our hearts, we commit the body of our dear loved one, Barry Manning Everingham, to the cleansing flames, grateful for the life that has been lived and all that life has meant to us. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The best things in life are the people we love, the places we've been, and the memories we've made along the way. I'd now like to call the pallbearers forward as we listen to Slim Dusty's, appropriately, Lights on the Hill. Thank you.